You promise to wake up early tomorrow. You swear you'll finally start that project. You vow to stop scrolling social media. But somehow, you keep betraying the most important person in your life, future you. Welcome to the Modern Sages, Ancient Wisdom, Modern Application. Today, the hidden psychology behind self-betrayal that a slave philosopher discovered 2,000 years ago, why modern science proves he was right, and your 2-minute practice to stop breaking promises to yourself. But first, let me tell you about the most counterintuitive definition of courage ever recorded. In 350 BCE, Aristotle wrote these words, "I count him braver who overcomes his desires than he who conquers his enemies. For the hardest victory is over self." Think about that. This man who tutored Alexander the Great, someone who literally knew world conquerors, believed that saying no to your own impulses required more bravery than facing down armies. He understood something we've forgotten. Every broken promise to yourself is an act of self-theft. Aristotle taught that self-discipline wasn't just nice to have, it was one of the 4 cardinal virtues, alongside courage, justice, and wisdom. He believed that we become just by the practice of just actions, self-controlled by exercising self-control. In other words, discipline isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something you build, rep by rep, choice by choice. But Aristotle was working with free citizens of Athens. 300 years later, someone would test these ideas under the most extreme conditions imaginable. His name was Epictetus, and he was born a slave. Around 50 CE, somewhere in modern-day Turkey, a child was born into bondage. His very name meant acquired, property, not person. Epictetus would spend his youth serving a brutal master who reportedly broke his leg during a fit of rage. Most people would have been destroyed by such circumstances, but Epictetus made a discovery that would change philosophy forever. Sitting in his chains, unable to control his body, his location, or his circumstances, he realized something profound. There was still one thing his master could never touch: his mind. While his body remained enslaved, Epictetus began exercising the only freedom he had, the freedom to choose his response. He couldn't control what happened to him, but he could control what he did with what happened to him. This wasn't just philosophical theory, this was survival. Eventually freed, Epictetus would become one of history's most influential teachers. But his lessons weren't born in ivory towers. They were forged in the crucible of absolute powerlessness. And his central teaching was this: freedom is not procured by a full enjoyment of what is desired, but by controlling the desire. Think about your last broken promise to yourself. You wanted to sleep in more than you wanted to wake up early. You wanted the dopamine hit more than you wanted the completed project. You wanted the comfort more than you wanted the growth. Epictetus would say, you chose slavery to your impulses over freedom through self-discipline. But here's where it gets interesting. One of Epictetus's students was a man named Marcus Aurelius, and unlike his teacher, Marcus had every external freedom imaginable. From 161 to 180 CE, Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire in human history. He commanded legions, controlled vast wealth, and could indulge any desire instantly. Yet every morning, this emperor would wake before dawn and write in his journal, not as a ruler, but as a student of that former slave's teachings. "You are here to work," he reminded himself one morning, "not to laze in bed." The most powerful man on earth was using stoic discipline to drag himself out of bed, just like you're trying to do tomorrow morning. Marcus understood what Epictetus taught. External freedom means nothing without internal freedom. You can have all the opportunities in the world, but if you can't control your own impulses, you're still enslaved, just with better accommodations. But here's what both philosophers discovered that modern psychology has now proven. Self-discipline isn't about willpower. It's about identity. Aristotle called it the golden mean, finding the balance between deficiency and excess. But more importantly, he taught that excellence is not an act, but a habit. You don't become disciplined by occasionally doing disciplined things. You become disciplined by repeatedly doing disciplined things until discipline becomes who you are. Epictetus put it even more simply. Practice yourself in little things and thence proceed to greater. Want to wake up early? Start by keeping one tiny promise to yourself today. Want to finish that project? Start by working on it for just 5 minutes. Want to stop mindless scrolling? Start by putting your phone down for just 1 minute when you feel the urge. The slave philosopher understood something that the emperor confirmed. Freedom comes not from getting what you want, but from wanting what serves your future self. And here's what's fascinating. In 2018, nearly 2,000 years later, researcher James Clear discovered the exact same principle. In Atomic Habits, he wrote that small, repeated actions compound into identity-level change. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. Every time you break one, you're voting for the person you don't want to be. Clear calls it identity-based habits, but Epictetus would recognize it immediately. We are what we repeatedly do. The slave in chains teaching the emperor on the throne, both discovering that self-discipline isn't about restriction, it's about becoming who you really want to be. This isn't just ancient philosophy, it's backed by modern neuroscience. Every kept promise literally rewires your brain to see yourself as someone who keeps promises. Every broken promise does the opposite. Now for the 2-minute practice. Open your notes app or grab a piece of paper. I want you to write 2 sentences, filling in the blanks as honestly as you can. The promise I keep breaking to myself is, tomorrow I will keep this promise for just 5 minutes by. That's it. Don't write a paragraph. Don't make a grand plan. Just identify one broken promise and commit to honoring it for 5 minutes tomorrow. 5 minutes. Because remember what Epictetus taught. Practice yourself in little things, then proceed to greater. If you're feeling ambitious, do this right now. Pause the video, write those 2 sentences, and feel what it's like to make a promise you actually intend to keep. Here's the principle in 1 line. Self-discipline isn't self-punishment, it's self-respect. Every promise you keep to yourself is an act of loyalty to your future. Every promise you break is an act of theft from the person you're becoming. The slave philosopher who had nothing taught the emperor who had everything the same truth. Real freedom comes from controlling yourself, not controlling your circumstances. Now I'm curious, what's your bigger challenge? Making promises to yourself or keeping the ones you make? Drop your answer like this. My challenge, tomorrow's 5-minute promise. If you want more ancient wisdom with modern application, subscribe. We post daily, and unlike your morning routine, we actually show up.